your movie is really funny. It's really funny. By myself, laughing out loud hysterically today. I watched it in the sauna. I watched it in the gym. I watched it. It's one of the best comedies I've seen in a long time because there's so many moments in it that are so uncomfortable.
That means a lot. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what we're hoping for.
The Robin D'Angelo one, where you gave that guy money for reparations and you got her. She thought it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, that was kind of when we had the idea for the film to talk about race. We knew we needed to get Robin D'Angelo. I didn't think we'd get her because I figured she'd be a lot more cautious. Yeah, savvy and cautious. But apparently she doesn't. She has no idea what's happening outside of her bubble at all. So she didn't know who I was. I mean, I gave her my name, and she had no clue. So
wow.
But we kind of went into that knowing what the end was supposed to be. If we could get her, we came up with that idea. We went to a bar the night before the interview, and we came up with this idea: could we get her to actually pay reparations to Ben, our black producer? And we had to kind of talk him into it. And, it was really just like, in real time, I was there for about 2 hours, and it was an hour and a half of the most mind-numbing conversation where none of that's in the movie because it's just me, like, fluff questions. And I'm repeating back to her own ideas so she knows that I'm a safe person.
Right.
It's a safe space, and then you got to build to it and build to it and build to it, and then finally you get to a point where you can do something a little weird, and she'll probably go along with it. And she did. I mean, you saw we go through we have a whole series of exercises we want to do with her, and she did it. She was game. So that was and that was one of the first things we filmed. So after we got that, we knew that, okay, we have a movie here.
I feel like you got your money's worth with her, seeing as it's $15,000, but I feel like you got robbed by the lady that got upset about the mascot. 50 grand. You barely got anything out of her.
Yeah, that was part of the point of the movie is that's why we put the price tags on the screen. We want people to see how absurd it is. So in a certain way, it was like the higher they quoted the price, we said, great, we'll pay that because we want this in the movie,
right?
Because if all these people had said, oh yeah, I'll do it for free or I'll do it for $200, just pay my travel, doesn't really make the point,
right?
But they all were quoting exorbitant prices, and she was the most
$50,000,
and then she basically said almost nothing. But it was okay.
No one ever found out who the identity of the mascot is.
No, I don't think so.
It would have been hilarious if it was a person of color.
Well, it almost certainly was. It almost certainly was because if it was a white guy,
they would have thrown him under the bus.
Yeah, they would have. So the fact that they didn't, it's probably some like Hispanic kid or something.
And you got to imagine you can't see real good with that fucking costume. You ever put a mascot costume on?
I haven't, but I can tell that there's little eye slits. You can't even see what's below you.
Exactly.
And that's why,
Duncan and I did a whole podcast where we pretended to be furries. We lasted, every podcast we do, we dress up. We'll dress up like Star Wars people or whatever, spaceship people. We did a podcast as furries. We kept the helmets on for maybe 5 minutes. We're like, I can't fucking do it. And we both took them off. We're like, props to the furries. If you could run around with this thing on, this is hard to do. Like, you can't see shit. You can't breathe. So the idea that he missed those kids is
the furries are doing a lot more than running around in those things too. So that's
they are. I think they designed special ones for that.
Yeah, I don't even want to know, but
like a hatch.
But it's actually a perfect example of what these people do. These race hustlers that. Something happened. It was a little bit unpleasant.
Yes.
Not a big deal. There's a million ways to interpret that. It's just a normal human thing that happens in the world. Like things happen that are a little bit unpleasant. You're disappointed. Your kid didn't get a high five. Okay, it happens. But for them, they have one lens for seeing the world, and the lens is through this left-wing racial ideology. So everything that happens is colored by that.
Right.
And everything is understood through that lens. So anything, I mean, you think about Michelle Obama, when she was first lady, she had multiple stories that she would tell about as first lady being discriminated against because of her race, allegedly. And one of them was she was in line for ice cream or something, and someone cut in front of her. And she told this story in some interview, this very dramatic story about, well, they didn't see her because she's black. And meanwhile, it's like we've all been cut. Lady, people have cut in front of all of us. It's just that if it happens to me at Walmart, I don't think of it racially. I just think, oh, this person's an asshole.
Exactly.
But for her, it's all racial. So
But that's
kind
a crazy one to say that someone cutting in front of you, a selfish act, is somehow racist. Just because that's like looking for racism everywhere. 'Cause
Right.
That kind of situation is so normal. It's so normal that some dick cuts in front of you.
Right, exactly. It's an unpleasant thing that happens to all people, and if you're not in the kind of race hustler bubble, you don't see it that way. But
it's interesting that nobody wants to call that out. Nobody wants to be reasonable. Nobody wants to say, well, is that like, you just say, oh wow, you have to listen to it. That's part of the problem. Like, you can't say, are you sure that's racist? Because then you're a racist apologist, and then you're racist by proxy.
Yeah, and how do you know? So how do you know what's in that other person's mind? How can you ascribe motives to them? And this,
Right.
it drives me nuts that this is what we do now, where if someone does something or says something, someone else is offended by it, that person who's offended gets to decide what the intent was behind the other person's action, to the extent that if the other person says, no, this was my intention, I'll tell you what it was, they don't get to have a say in the intentions behind their own actions. They are suddenly not authorities in their own behavior.
Exactly.
This other person who was the offended party gets to inform you what you meant by that thing, which is really what the movie's called Am I Racist? But in reality, there's only one person who can answer whether you're a racist person, and that's you. And if you don't think that you're racist, then you aren't, because racism is a thought process, and if it's not in your head, then you're not racist. You might have stereotypical views about people of other races. Everybody does to some extent. You might think things that are even insulting about people of other races, but it's not racist, because
Right.
racist means you hate people of other races or you think they're inferior to you.
Right.
But you could be not a racist person and think that whatever, Asians are bad drivers. You could think that stereotype is true. Whether it's true or not, you just happen to think that that's a true thing about this group. Doesn't mean you hate them. Doesn't
Right.
mean that you think that they're inferior. It's just
You can say frat boys are annoying and not hate men.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Whether and most of the time, these stereotypes, they didn't just fall out of the sky. Like
Right.
they're grounded in something.
If they did, it wouldn't make any sense.
Right. And nobody would be offended. That's the thing. Nobody would be offended by a stereotype that
Right.
that really was not true at all.
Right.
You're only offended because it rings true at least a little bit, because otherwise it would just be
Exactly.
absurd. Which is why when you get, in the movie we go, there's a section where we go kind of outside this bubble.